LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to the September 27th edition of LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. Thanks for joining me. This week, I have the 12 best, most newsworthy clips I picked out from the Sunday morning news analysis shows from the big five corporate outlets of ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox News. Well, there's some MSNBC clips thrown in there too, but that's all the so-called corporate media here in the United States. And it should be a really educational, informative, fair use media criticism and political comedy show for you all tonight. If you want to follow along on my clip list, but I dropped my clip list. Oh, it's over here. Sorry. Follow. Oh, that's not the right clip list. Whatever. I've already lost my clip list, but I will find it when we watch the first clip. But it's down in the video description. You can click on the link to my clip list, and that is the notes I use to tell me what is in each clip. And they're on my two topics. The main topic, of course, is Trump stealing your health care. And I actually almost made the topic this week, Trump won't leave, because that, I think, is sort of the distraction story that Trump wanted to put up there because it's better, it's better than talking about, well, coronavirus and his failure on coronavirus, and the ongoing coronavirus crisis will be the final clip I'm going to show you. That's the secondary topic. But the main topic is really what the Democrats have decided is their main message in response to this opening on the Supreme Court, not really to go after the president's nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, on abortion, on voting rights, on many extreme problems. There are many problems with the extreme judicial views of Amy Coney Barrett, but the Democrats have decided to go after Trump and Trump's nominee on this case that's coming up before the Supreme Court on November 10th, a week after the election, where the Supreme Court could strike down the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, take away a lot of health care, protections for pre-existing conditions, protections for women being charged more than men, protections for children being able to stay on their parents' plans till the age of 26. There are all sorts of good things in Obamacare that have gotten more and more popular, and Democrats know that's one of their biggest winning issues is healthcare, because Republicans have no replacement. They pretended to have a replacement. Trump's lied over and over again about how he's going to have, something great that costs so much less, and it's going to be ready in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's ready now, and he put together some executive orders that were kind of a joke this last week, and I think that's why Democrats are going to be pounding that for the next 38 days to the election. But the political comedy clip I have for you is on a topic that got very little coverage on the Sunday morning news analysis shows, but I think it's a pretty important topic. It was the grand jury result, which is really what the Attorney General Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, what he wanted, because, they say a prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich if he wants them to, but he can also prevent them from indicting any pork if he wants as well. That's sort of like a cop as pork joke, I guess. Do people still call cops pigs? There was the whole controversy of Black Lives Matter, of like pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon or something. That was something some people at a Black Lives Matter street protest once chanted, and Fox News caught it on video and played it and talked about it over and over again for many years since then. So maybe I shouldn't even be making that kind of joke. But this clip, this is actually about 4 minutes of Maya Wiley talking about a fact regarding the Breonna Taylor case that has gotten very little attention. The warrant that was used to go into her apartment included a lie. At least that's what some of the reporting says. They lied that they said that she was receiving suspicious packages, but there was, federal postal inspectors who said no evidence of suspicious packages. And the reason I wanted to play this clip, in addition to the political comedy you'll see in the background behind, if you watch Maya Wiley very closely, about 2.5 minutes into this clip, if you'll see some political comedy happening behind her. But she also tells you this fact, not comedic at all, that basically the cops lied to get the warrant, or that's what it looks like in this Breonna Taylor case. And you may remember when Trump started, and the Republicans started ranting about how they lied to get the warrant in the FISA application, and it was like outrageous that prosecutors and cops would lie to get a warrant. And I think I said multiple times, well, as a former criminal defense attorney, that's something that happens all the time. Cops, and there's very, very little accountability. Maybe in this one case, because of the lawsuit, well, there was the $12 million settlement, but that investigation hasn't even happened yet as to how they lied to get the warrant in the Breonna Taylor case. Now, this clip actually comes from Morning Joe on MSNBC. I actually watch it a lot because I wake up early on the West Coast. It comes on at 3 a.m. and I'm often up in like the 3 to 4 to 5. Well, then they replay the first hour from 5 to 5:30 my time. By then, usually I've fallen back asleep. But the best thing I can say about Joe Scarborough, former Republican member of Congress, and he and Mika host the show, and I'm not big fans of either Joe and Mika, though I kind of like the show sometimes, especially with some of their guests. But the best thing I can say about Joe Scarborough is sometimes he is sufferable, and sometimes not. In this clip, the word insufferable. Well, how come no one ever uses the word sufferable? And I would say Joe Scarborough is kind of sufferable some of the time, but not completely. In this clip, talking to Maya Wiley, where Joe Scarborough takes like the cop, prosecutor, judge side, and Maya Wiley explains, no, they lied to get the warrant. And pay close attention, about 2.5 minutes in, behind Maya Wiley, you will see some political comedy in this clip.
One of the things we know about this case, or at least have heard, is that they got this warrant because Officer James, who isn't even mentioned in any of this grand jury proceeding, said that they believed that she was getting packages, suspicious packages from this ex-boyfriend, except that in January, the U.S. Postal Service inspectors, who are federal police, said, no, we don't see any evidence that she's getting any suspicious packages. So, in fact, there was information that there really were not grounds to get a warrant to enter her apartment. So they create a situation in which, by any means necessary, they can go after people who are black, and it doesn't matter what their Fourth Amendment rights are. And that's what we have to fix.
So Maya, let me ask you this question. This is from a New York Times article, an investigative piece. I'm quoting it here. Judge Mary Shaw, who signed the order, said she had asked needed questions of the officer, reviewed the affidavits, prepared each warrant, and subsequently made the probable cause determination required by law. The warrant cited 5 pieces of information establishing what the police said was probable cause. Mr. Glover's car making repeated trips between the trap house where the drugs were and Mrs. Taylor's home. Her car's appearance in front of 2424 Elliott, that house, on multiple occasions. Surveillance of footage of him leaving her apartment with a package in mid-January. A postal inspector's confirmation that Mr. Glover had used her address to receive parcels, and database searches indicating that as late as February, he listed her apartment as a home address. And of course, it was a very extensive surveillance operation and drug operation for some time. And when they went into the 3 other houses they were looking at, they in fact, let me read from the Times again. They did in fact find the swarm of officers beat down the doors and without incident, recovering large quantities of crack and fentanyl pills in a bag hidden in a tree, as well as cash, digital scales, and guns. They also found signs of attempts to get rid of the evidence, cocaine flushed in the toilet, according to police evidence logs and summaries. Mr. Glover and 4 others were arrested and taken to jail. I'm curious because it seems to me that based on the judges, and nothing compared to the number of judges you've worked before, but most judges that I went before in my limited time in courts would have probably signed probable cause warrants for these police officers to go to this house, given also that they had recordings between Breonna's boyfriend and her. So, do you think the probable cause warrant was improperly signed over to the police officers? Do you think that the judges that you worked before in the Southern District of New York would have signed such warrants and found probable cause in this case?
Yeah, it's an important question, because the issue is, how easy is it to get a warrant, and what the officers told the judge, and how and to what extent did it justify this? Remember that it started as a no-knock warrant, and then because she had no criminal record, because there were real questions here, they actually changed it to a knock and announce. That tells you something. It also tells us that we need to know more, because, as I said, there were indications the Postal Service inspector said they didn't think they were suspicious packages.
And you saw there Maya Wiley making the point that I made before I showed the clip, that looks like cops lied to get that warrant for Breonna Taylor, which is not an uncommon thing, and the legal standard is actually not even that strict, where they go back and all they do is they look and see, well, would the judge have signed the warrant even if he wasn't considering the lie? And that seems to be a really lax standard for enforcing the code of honesty we'd like from our law enforcement officers. But I don't know if you actually saw the political comedy part of that. About 2.5 minutes into that 4-minute 12-second clip, or I think that was about the right there. If you were watching carefully behind Maya Wiley, you might have seen this screenshot. Do you see it? You see it there? That right behind her shoulder, there's a kitten. All of a sudden, there was a kitten. And the subject was very serious, but I noticed that was what was it, 3:38 a.m. for me, and I said, all of a sudden, I just exclaimed, "It's a kitten!" And that's why I wanted to show you that clip, also because I wanted to talk a little bit about, well, if you look over my shoulder here, you can read this book, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. It will tell you about our oppressive system of mass incarceration that's racially biased and is a way of social control, and how all the laws are skewed in favor of police when they are in situations like what happened this week, where they were only charged for the bullets that missed. Like the bullets that actually killed Breonna Taylor, no crime there. Just endangering the white neighbors, not even the black neighbors, just the white neighbors. I'm not making any of this up. So anyway, I wanted to show both the bright spot there of the kitten behind Maya Wiley, but also discuss briefly the ongoing racial reckoning going on in our country. There were even more protests here where I live in Sacramento, all across the country, protests. Not much coverage on the Sunday morning news analysis shows. I think there was one question of one of the guests, or one or two questions, maybe a panel discussion, but you'll see I'm about to show you all 5 of the news summaries, and I don't think there's one mention of Breonna Taylor or Louisville in any of them. But I'm going to start with the longest and, as usual, the best news summary. That doesn't mean Chuck Todd and NBC News Meet the Press are the best, most journalistic news show. I know there are a lot of Chuck Todd haters out there, but they just put in the most details. They have Chuck Todd starting off with his introduction. My one criticism for all these news summaries is not enough attention to COVID-19, coronavirus. Over 200,000 people dead, but not only that, things are about to get a lot worse. And I'll talk about that when I get to my final news clip, clip 12 from CBS News' Face the Nation. They didn't really cover it in their news summary, but, well, when I get to that clip, I'll explain how Face the Nation has been, in some ways, the leading corporate news outlet covering coronavirus. But first, I'll get to Chuck Todd, who mentions coronavirus at the beginning of this long news summary and gives a lot of details about what, the coronavirus surge, the stall in Trump's poll numbers. I mean, basically, Joe Biden has been beating Donald Trump by 7 to 10 points for many, many months. And it's polls aren't really tightening, and that'll be covered in this NBC News Meet the Press news summary, where he talks about how Republicans thought they could change the subject from coronavirus to the Supreme Court and get better, there are only 38 days left to the election, so every day they can talk about something other than Trump's huge failure and the 200,000 dead Americans, many of whom were killed or died because of Trump's bad leadership in this coronavirus crisis. Any day they can talk about something other than that is a good day for Republicans, but then Trump messed it all up by, well, I don't know. Was it a distraction, or was it a distraction from the distraction from the distraction when he started saying that he won't leave? He might not leave even if he loses. And anyway, that's all covered in this NBC News Meet the Press news summary. I will talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over here.
Good Sunday morning. With coronavirus cases surging again and the president's poll numbers stalled, Republicans thought they had finally caught a break with the surprise Supreme Court vacancy serving as the October, or shall we say September surprise they needed to unite the party. But just as they were teeing up comfortable talking points on the court, preparing to announce Judge Amy Coney Barrett, once again the president changed the subject, not just veering off message, but creating yet another crisis. The president's comments, casting doubt on whether he will commit to a peaceful transfer of power, we're going to have to see what happens, dominated front pages and rattled folks all across Washington, including across the river at the Pentagon. Republicans were forced to distance themselves, though few condemned the president by name, rushing out statements calling for an orderly transition of power, noting it's a hallmark of our democracy, a fundamental principle, it's happened forever, we're not a banana republic, and this from Senator Ben Sasse, the president says crazy stuff. All this taking the focus away from his announcement late yesterday of a Supreme Court pick. Hearings on her nomination are scheduled to begin 2 weeks from tomorrow on October 12th, with Senate Republican leadership pushing for a vote just before the election. It comes at a time when President Trump has largely failed to close the gap with Joe Biden in the polls. In our new NBC News Mayor's Battleground state polls, Biden leads Trump by 10 points among likely voters in Wisconsin, and he's up 8 in Michigan, above 50% in both states, most importantly. And it also comes as the president desperately grasps for something, anything, to shake up this race ahead of the first debate with Biden on Tuesday night.
Today it is my honor to nominate one of our nation's most brilliant and gifted legal minds.
President Trump scrambling to get back on message and to fire up his conservative base.
Most important of all, she will defend your God-given rights and freedoms.
If confirmed, Barrett, a favorite of religious conservatives, would ensure a 6-3 conservative majority on the court, setting up a bitter battle over abortion and the Affordable Care Act in the final days of the campaign.
A vote for Judge Barrett is a vote to take away health care.
Roe versus Wade is a travesty. It's judicial imperialism.
The president's pick could also energize his opposition. While there is plenty of debate about when in a pregnancy abortion should be legal, a 2-to-1 majority believes it should be legal in some form. The president, increasingly public about fears he will lose, is complaining about his poll numbers.
What would our popularity be if every day for almost 4 years you didn't hear any of this bullshit, okay?
Accusing the FDA of delaying a vaccine to hurt him politically.
They're trying to do a little bit of a political hit. Let's delay it just a little bit. You notice that? Let's delay the vaccine just a little bit.
And for at least the 4th time this week, refusing to commit to accept the election results if he loses.
I want to see a very peaceful transition. but it's got to be a legal process.
Questioning the integrity of the election without evidence.
We're not going to lose this except if they cheat.
On Wednesday, the president floated the idea.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots.
Some Republicans pushed back. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell tweeting, "There will be an orderly transition, just as there has been every 4 years since 1792.
It doesn't matter what the president says. The Constitution says the presidency ends on January 20th.
We're the United States of America. We're not a banana republic.
The White House attempted to spin the comments.
I think his point of view is that it's necessary and constitutionally correct to nominate and confirm the 9th Supreme Court Justice, that would give us a strong safeguard with respect to the coming election.
But on Thursday, the president doubled down.
We want to make sure the election is honest, and I'm not sure that it can be.
The last thing we need is, the equivalent of a coup. I mean, this is not who we are.
And joining me now is a member of the Senate Republican leadership team. He's chair of the policy committee. It's Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. Senator Blunt.
And I will have a clip of Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri. I actually lived in Missouri for 5 years, so I know Missouri, sort of. That's where I did my last 2 years of law school, was at Washington University in St. Louis, and then I was a public defender in St. Louis County for a few years, so I will be commenting on Roy Blunt getting the law backwards. He tries to defend Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett in, by the way, I found my clip list. There, down in the video description, you can get this clip list, my 12 clips with my notes that tell me what are all the clips that are coming up. And by the way, I was reading the live comments along the way. I saw that there was someone named Dale asking how they can contribute, because I saw a couple super chat contributions already. I wanted to thank, let me see if I can get that, Matthew for the $5 contribution, and Lulu Girl for the $10 contribution, saying it's going to be an interesting month. And actually, that's something that you'll see Jake Tapper kind of say in the next clip I'm going to show you. And for Dale, if you want to contribute to my videos, like in the chat, there's a $sign for if you live in certain countries. And if you want to contribute through YouTube, and there's also a join button down below the video if you live in certain countries. But also there are links down in the video description for a direct PayPal donation. And there's also a link down there to be one of my patrons on Patreon to give a monthly donation. That is the most sustaining of all the donations, actually. And at the $5 level, I send out these hashtag LiberalViewer weatherproof vinyl stickers. And at the $10 level, you get the sticker and this ACLU Constitution. That's for a one-time PayPal contribution at the link down there, or the Patreon monthly patron contribution to become a YouTube member with the join button down there. The prices are different because YouTube takes like 30%, so I have to increase the prices. So that answers that question I saw, and I don't know. These could be my last few months trying to make this YouTube channel a ongoing money-making concern. I've talked about how I may change things up after January 20th, 2021. That depends on, because, well, I don't want to go into all that right now. I want to get to the next of the news news summaries. This is CNN State of the Union. Jake Tapper saying our State of the Union this week is bracing ourselves, kind of like what Lulu Girl was saying there about it's going to be an interesting month. Well, Jake Tapper is saying we're bracing ourselves for the next 38 days before the election. Looks like we're going to get Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. At least that's what the Republicans are saying. And then Jake Tapper shows a clip of Trump at his press conference nominating Amy Coney Barrett. He talks about the timeline of the Republicans to get her on the court, and then Democrat Democrats opposing it based on the Affordable Care Act. That's my, Trump stealing your health care title this week. And also Roe v. Wade in the CNN State of the Union news summary I will talk about with you a little more after we watch it together over here.
Hello, I'm Dick Tapper in Washington, where the State of our Union is bracing ourselves. Yesterday evening, just 38 days before Election Day, President Trump announced his pick to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the U.S. Supreme Court. Judge Amy Coney Barrett, a respected legal scholar, favorite of conservatives, and a former law clerk for the late Justice Antonin Scalia.
She is a woman of unparalleled achievement, towering intellect, sterling credentials, and unyielding loyalty to the Constitution.
The nomination of Judge Barrett, which could ensure the most conservative court in decades, came just over 1 week after the death of Justice Ginsburg. But Republicans say they have no time to waste, as they plan to hold confirmation hearings beginning on October 12th and a full Senate vote on the nomination just days before the presidential election on November 3rd. Democrats immediately expressed their opposition to both that rapid push to confirm a justice so close to the election, as well as opposition to the potential justice herself, who Democrats say could help overturn the Affordable Care Act and Roe v. Wade. Just this morning, the president said that Judge Barrett's past actions and rulings suggest that she may be in the category from his previous pledge to put justices on the court who will, quote, automatically overturn Roe v. Wade. But it is unclear how Democrats could stop a Republican Senate majority from confirming Judge Barrett to the court. Joining me now to discuss House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Speaker.
And I will have a clip of Nancy Pelosi coming up. Oh, I didn't preview the clips. In my title, I have Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi both sticking to this talking point I was talking about earlier, that this whole Supreme Court nomination is all about taking away your health care and invalidating the Affordable Care Act, what's usually called Obamacare. And I will have clips on that. But I have, 3 more news summaries. Well, 2 if you don't count Fox News as actual news, and it's kind of borderline, as I will talk about when I get to that news summary. But the next news summary is ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, where George seems really fixated on the number of days, like the number of days since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, the number of days until Trump and Biden debate, the number of days until the election. Do you know all those numbers? Well, after you watch the beginning of this next clip, you will, and then I will discuss the rest of the clip with you after we watch together over here.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. 8 days after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, 2 days before the first debate, just 37 days now from the final votes. Another unprecedented twist in this unpredictable campaign. No Supreme Court justice has ever been confirmed this close to an election, but Republicans are already closing ranks behind Judge Amy Coney Barrett, hoping to jolt the election and cement a conservative majority on the Supreme Court for decades. Democrats are defiant, calling the process a sham, warning that a Justice Barrett could be a mortal threat to American health care, hoping to spark their own backlash at the polls. And as we come on the air this morning, our brand new poll with the Washington Post shows a majority of Americans believe the president elected on November 3rd should fill this Supreme Court vacancy. It's against the backdrop of a presidential race that's been stable 4 months, with Joe Biden now holding a steady 10-point lead over President Trump. John Carl is at the White House this morning. And John, this is President Trump's 3rd nomination to the Supreme Court, and these court appointments are the glue that binds President Trump to Senate Republicans.
George, these judicial appointments have kept Republicans in lockstep with Donald Trump, even Republicans who have deep misgivings about his personal behavior or other issues.
That's really sad, that last part about how, that's the 2 things that keep Republicans in lockstep with Donald Trump, even though they have great concerns about his personal behavior. But, they want judges, they want low taxes for rich people. That's it. That's like all Republicans really believe in. Judicial appointments that will protect minority rights when the United States becomes a minority country. That's kind of a ridiculous, that's sort of an oxymoron, but in the next 20, 30, 40 years, white people are not going to be the majority in the United States, but they may still be able to hold the Senate, which represents, more, states that are empty than there. Remember last week I was talking about how each Wyoming senator represents has the same vote as the senators from California, even though California is 68 times the population of Wyoming. Why is that? That's protects rural white people, just like the Electoral College, and that's a big problem. And anyway, I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but I want to get to the final, shortest of the news summaries. This is CBS News' Face the Nation. Margaret Brennan, not talking about coronavirus. Oh, that was something I wanted to criticize George Stephanopoulos, in that you saw that whole news summary all about Supreme Court, nothing about the tragedy affecting America right now, that there are over 200,000 Americans dead from COVID-19, way out of proportion to how it's affected every other country all over the world. This week, Face the Nation did not have a Mark Strassman report from Atlanta about what's happening with COVID-19 in the U.S. No Elizabeth Palmer report about how India and, well, I hear UK and there are various countries who are experiencing a second spike. But even though it's not in this news summary from Face the Nation, if you keep watching all the way to the end to clip 12, if you're following along on my clip list at the link down in the video description, clip 12 is Margaret Brennan asking the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, about how we're about to go into a new spike. We're going into the fall now, and we're pretty much screwed. And as I've mentioned many times on my live streams, Face the Nation was the first of the big five corporate outlets to report on the Sunday morning news analysis shows. Face the Nation was the first of the news programs to report on coronavirus in China back in January and February. And at that time, I wasn't even sure about it. I said, it's either hype from CBS or they're the only news station that's actually reporting on the most important story. And guess what? It turned out to be answer number 2. And it's not in this news summary from Face the Nation, but it is in that final clip number 12. But here's Margaret Brennan giving the 30-second news summary about the Supreme Court on the beginning of Face the Nation this morning over here.
Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. With just over a month until Election Day, Capitol Hill has become the new battleground in a fierce dispute over the makeup of the Supreme Court. Last night, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham said he expected to start Judge Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearings in just 2 weeks. President Trump told Fox News that he thinks she'll be confirmed before and probably long before Election Day. We begin this morning with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who joins us from
And I will have a clip of Mark Meadows. Like I said, that's the last news clip where Margaret Brennan confronts Mark Meadows about the coming coronavirus shitstorm. I mean, I don't know. We're so totally screwed going into the fall based on the leadership of Donald Trump. And the thing I'm most worried about is that all these super spreader events that the Trump campaign is organizing, to get his big ego boosting rallies. Well, and a super spreader event where people get infected, it takes maybe 4 weeks for the 2 weeks for the cases to show up, maybe 4 or 5 weeks for the hospitalizations to show up, and then like 6 or 7 weeks for the deaths to start showing up from those super spreader events. And guess what? We're 38 days from the election, so Trump don't care. Trump don't care because the consequences of his super spreader events are all going to be most noticeable after November 3rd, after everyone's voted, and that's all he cares about. That's actually what Anthony Fauci said in Bob Woodward's book Rage about that. That's one of the quotes from Anthony Fauci, that Trump don't care about nothing except getting reelected. So I wanted to make that point before I get to this Fox News Sunday final news summary. I kept it last because it's not really journalism. One of the weird things here, let me get my notes here. This is Brit Hume is in for Chris Wallace because Chris Wallace is going to be the moderator of the Trump versus Biden debate that's on Tuesday, and I hopefully will be able to do some debate clip roundup Wednesday morning, maybe. We'll see how it goes and see how the debate goes. But Brit Hume is in, and he does a really lackadaisical job, as I will show when I get to his cross-examination, such as it is of Trump Secretary of Labor Eugene Scalia, son of Antonin Scalia, who was supposed to be replaced by Merrick Garland, but then, well, that's a whole other thing. But anyway, you'll see in this news summary, Brit Hume does a brief introduction that's all about the upcoming debates and the Supreme Court, and then Mark Meredith reports from the White House, Jacqui Heinrich reports from the Biden campaign, and you don't hear about the pandemic or the whole take away your health care issue all the way until you get to Jacqui Heinrich in the from the Biden campaign. Mark Meredith says that Democrats said one thing about Merrick Garland and now they're doing the opposite, and also it's all about abortion and religion, nothing about health care until you get to Jacqui Heinrich in this final news summary that I will talk about with you after we watch it together over here.
And hello again from Fox News in Cleveland. We're live on the campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic, the site of the first debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, moderated by our very own Chris Wallace, who is preparing today. The Supreme Court vacancy, President Trump's third, and his selection of Judge Amy Coney Barrett as his nominee add a new twist to Tuesday night's debate. We'll begin with Fox team coverage, Mark Meredith at the White House and Jacqui Heinrich in Wilmington, Delaware. Let's start with the latest on the president's Supreme Court pick and what we know about the timeline for her confirmation process. Mark?
Brit, President Trump hopes to fire up his base with his new Supreme Court nominee, but with Election Day fast approaching, the White House knows getting Judge Barrett confirmed by the Senate will be contentious.
It is a very proud moment indeed.
Late Saturday, President Trump made it official. He's nominating 7th Circuit Appeals Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court.
She is a woman of unparalleled achievement, towering intellect, sterling credentials, and unyielding loyalty to the Constitution.
Barrett, a favorite of the conservative establishment, is a practicing Catholic, graduate of Notre Dame, and former clerk for the late Justice Antonin Scalia.
His judicial philosophy is mine, too. A judge must apply the law as written.
Democrats are outraged. Republicans are pushing Barrett's nomination forward just 5 weeks before the election, after Republicans blocked President Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland, for the same reason in 2016. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says Democrats are concerned with Barrett's record on abortion and religion.
I will strongly oppose this nomination.
Two GOP senators say they will not vote on the nominee before the election, but the majority of Republicans appear ready to hold hearings. And Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Lindsey Graham says his committee will hold 4 days of confirmation hearings beginning the week of October 12th. The president told reporters last night he thinks Barrett's confirmation will move fairly fast and that he believes a confirmation vote, Brit, will happen before Election Day. Brit?
Mark Meredith reporting from the White House. Thank you, Mark. Now let's turn to Jacqui Heinrich, who is covering the Biden campaign in Wilmington, Delaware. Hi, Jacqui.
Hi, Brit. Joe Biden hopes pressuring vulnerable Republican senators about health care amid the pandemic can stall the confirmation process. Joe Biden is hedging his bets on coronavirus fears, warning if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed and the Affordable Care Act is overturned, complications from COVID-19 like lung scarring and heart damage could become the next deniable pre-existing conditions, writing, Barrett has a written track record of disagreeing with the U.S. Supreme Court's decision upholding the Affordable Care Act. She critiqued Chief Justice John Roberts' majority opinion upholding the law in 2012. Democrats hope the threat of retaliation from angry voters could persuade Senate Republicans in tight races to push the vote past Election Day. And Biden is offering the election year standard the GOP set 4 years ago as a way out, urging no action until after November 3rd. Biden is resisting talk about nuclear options like court packing if Judge Barrett is confirmed, instead turning the focus to President Trump's refusal to commit to a peaceful transition of power if he loses.
Well, what I am concerned about is whether he generates some kind of response in a way that unsettles the society or causes some kind of violence. The last thing we need is, the equivalent of a coup.
Biden was slated for a light schedule today as he's been heavy into debate prep, including mock debates with an advisor playing the role of President Trump. But early this morning, he announced surprise remarks on the Supreme Court vacancy coming up later this afternoon. Brit.
Jacqui Heinrich reporting from Wilmington, Delaware. Thank you, Jacqui. Join me now.
And my next clip is actually going to be from Joe Biden's remarks today from Wilmington, Delaware. I have about a 3-minute clip, and it is a clip that supports my title for the video about Trump stealing your health care, and that being the main Democratic messaging. And like I said, I pretty much pre-criticized that clip. A lot of what you're going to hear from Joe Biden in the next clip did get through to Fox News viewers in that Jacqui Heinrich report from the Biden campaign. But why did Mark Meredith say that what Democrats were concerned about was abortion and religion, not health care? Why did he say that Republican or Democrats are now using the same argument that Republicans used, that it was that Merrick Garland shouldn't be confirmed in an election year, when Scalia died in February of an election year and now voting is already underway? I think I saw one statistic that over 800,000 Americans have already voted right now. Almost 1 million Americans. So that is definitely a difference, and you'll see Nancy Pelosi talk about that in the clip after next. This is the next two clips are the people that I put in the title of my video, Joe Biden, then Nancy Pelosi, supporting what I said at the beginning, that this is the big Democratic talking point. They've decided that most likely they can't stop Amy Coney Barrett from becoming a Supreme Court justice, but they're going to get the most political effect out of that. And I don't know if it's going to be before November 3rd. Maybe if it's not before November 3rd and Trump loses and the Democrats regain the Senate, that somehow that will mean that Republicans will back off and she won't be confirmed. I'm not saying it's 100% sure, but it's like 90% sure she's going to get confirmed, based on the power politics that I talked about last week, where I pointed out that what the Republicans are actually arguing is that very close to critical race theory, that politics and the law isn't really about principles. It's like who has the power. And the Republicans are saying, well, when the president is Republican or of one party and the Senate is of the same party, they can do whatever they want. Whatever they want. That's, is it raw political power? Is it critical race theory? It's like law and politics is all about protecting the, power of property, the power of the rich, the power of white supremacy. That's critical race theory, and apparently that's the Republican excuse for why they're putting Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. And I could talk about all that, but no, Democrats have decided that their best messaging, and the message that I used in the title of my video, is that this is all about Trump stealing your health care. And that's what Biden said in his press conference, from which, I took about a little under 3.5 minutes of his speech, making the point that it's all about getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, stealing your health care. I believe he actually uses the word stealing before the end of the clip I will talk about with you after we watch it together over here.
Yesterday, before Justice Ginsburg could be laid to rest, and after thousands of Americans had already cast their ballots, the president nominated a successor to her seat. There's no mystery about what's happening here. President Trump is trying to throw out the Affordable Care Act, and he's been trying to do it for the last 4 years. The Republican Party has been trying to eliminate it for a decade. Twice already, the Supreme Court has upheld that law, the Affordable Care Act. And the Congress, expressing the popular will of the American people, has rejected President Trump's efforts as well. Now, all of a sudden, this administration believes they found a loophole in the tragedy of Justice Ginsburg's death. It doesn't matter to them. The Republicans set the precedent just 4 years ago when they denied even the courtesy of a hearing to President Obama's nominee after Justice Scalia passed, after he had only passed away 9 months prior to Election Day. Didn't matter to them that millions of Americans already voting on a new president and a new Congress had begun. All that does matter is that they see an opportunity to overturn the Affordable Care Act on their way out the door. And as I speak, we are still in the midst of the worst global health crisis in a century. A crisis has already taken over 200,000 lives, between 750 and 1,000 lives a day and counting. And yet, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court right now, as I speak, to eliminate the entire Affordable Care Act. The administration filed a brief in the Supreme Court that concludes, and I quote, "The entire ACA thus must fall. The entire ACA thus must fall." President Trump can claim all he wants. He's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions. But the fact is he's already fighting to take those protections away as we speak. If he has his way, more than 100 million people with pre-existing conditions like asthma, diabetes, and cancer could once again be denied coverage. Complications from COVID-19, like lung scarring and heart damage, could become the next flood of pre-existing conditions used as an excuse to deny coverage to millions of people. Women could once again be charged higher premiums just because they are women. Pregnancy becoming a pre-existing condition again. Seniors would see their prescription drug prices go up and the funding for Medicare go down.
So I think that is disciplined messaging from Joe Biden that any pollster would tell Joe Biden the two strongest issues you have in this election against Donald Trump are health care. That's what Democrats used to get historic wins in 2018, in terms of percentage of the vote, which meant many House seats. In the Senate, not so much, but that's what I was talking about earlier, where the Senate is not Democratic at small d Democratic at all. Every state gets 2 senators. A lot of the map did not favor Democrats because a lot of the states that were up in 2018 were red states where there was a lot of land, but not a lot of people. Wyoming has, 560,000, 580,000 people. California has 40 million. Like I said earlier, California has 68 times the population of Wyoming. I'm pretty sure that's the correct number. And same number of senators. So that's one of the ridiculous things about the Senate. But Joe Biden was a senator. He won't say that the Senate is ridiculous, but he will say they're trying to steal your health care. And that's also what Nancy Pelosi says in this next clip, wture she represents the more representative branch of our legislature, the House of Representatives, where every member represents roughly the same number of Americans. What is it, 100,000, 300,000? I can't even remember the number of constituents each member of Congress is supposed to have. But here Nancy Pelosi also sticks to that. The two big messages are healthcare and COVID-19. You heard that from Biden. You will hear it from Nancy Pelosi no matter what Jake Tapper asks. And I will talk about that clip a little bit more after we watch it together over here.
Joining us, take a listen to Judge Barrett yesterday.
If the Senate does me the honor of confirming me, I pledge to discharge the responsibilities of this job to the very best of my ability. I never imagined that I would find myself in this position. But now that I am, I assure you that I will meet the challenge with both humility and courage.
Judge Barrett graduated first in her class. She clerked at the Supreme Court. She earned unanimous endorsements from her fellow law clerks and law professors in 2017. Now, I understand you disagree with her views, but isn't Judge Barrett qualified to be on the Supreme Court?
Well, that will be up to the Senate to decide when they go through the hearings and the meetings. I'm not into that process. That's a Senate function. What I am concerned about is anyone that President Trump would have appointed was there to undo the Affordable Care Act. That is why he was in such a hurry, so he could have someone in place for the oral arguments which begin November 10th. And it doesn't matter what the process is here. What matters is what it means personally to the American people. If you have a pre-existing medical condition, that benefit will be gone. If you were a woman, we'll be back to a time where being a woman is a pre-existing medical condition. If your children are on your policy, your adult children are on your policy, no longer will they be, and that in a time of a pandemic. And if you have seniors in your family who are having long-term care paid for by Medicaid, they're going to be pretty soon moving back home and living with you. That may be a wonderful experience, but it isn't. You should have a choice, and that's not what this is about. So I'm not. It's up to the Senate to make that judgment and to have that process. I don't think it's. I don't know whoever he appointed was going to be there to overturn the Affordable Care Act, but be hopeful. People have to be hopeful. This is unfortunate that the president would be so disrespectful and rush into this, but nonetheless, that's what it is. But vote. The antidote to his whatever he does is to vote, vote, vote. Vote for affordable care, vote for your pre-existing condition, vote for your safety, and vote for your health.
So you just criticized the president for rushing this. In 2016, you said that Republicans were showing, quote, a disrespect for the Constitution. You said that Judge Garland was, quote, owed a vote in the Senate. If Judge Garland was owed a vote, then isn't Judge Barrett owed one as well?
Well, wait a second. When did Justice Scalia pass away?
February.
February. This is now September. So the time frame is quite different. That this court would go that long a time without a justice. So I don't see any equivalence in that in what you're presenting. But let me just say about Justice Ginsburg, because she said something that it's important for people to know. We honored her. And when we were honoring the women members of the court for Women's History Month a few years ago, we honored all of them. She spoke for the women members, and she talked about someone called Bevel Lockwood, who tried to, in 1876, who tried to be argued before the court, to be a member of the Supreme Court bar. She was turned down. There were 9 justices then, 6-3, because she was a woman. She didn't take it sitting down. She lobbied Congress, and then Congress passed a law that said women who possess the necessary qualifications must be admitted to the bar of the Supreme Court. Now, here's the point. This is what Justice Ginsburg said next. It is my favorite example of how sometimes the Congress is more in tune with changing times and the expansion of the idea of equality than the court is. Well, the same thing applies when it comes to the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. Vote, vote, vote. So whatever they do and rush in to overturn the Affordable Care Act, and that is their purpose, vote, 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 Congress can come back. We have to win the House, we have to win the Senate, right, and we have to win the White House.
So that clip of Nancy Pelosi was over 4 minutes, and she said, vote, 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 vote. I actually thought of taking the longer interview and editing it down until I had just all the times Nancy Pelosi said health care, which I think was maybe like 25, 30 times. In fact, later in the interview, you can click on the link to CNN's State of the Union at the link down in the video description. Watch the whole Nancy Pelosi interview, and at one point later, I think she says, the 3 issues in this campaign are healthcare, and healthcare. I guess it's that whole like real estate location thing taken to the 2020 election. And anyway, I think I proved my point with the Nancy Pelosi clip and the Joe Biden clip that the Democratic messaging, what they've decided to do, they can't necessarily stop Coney Barrett from becoming a justice of the Supreme Court, but they're going to exact the maximum political price because of this upcoming ACA or Obamacare Affordable Care Act ruling November 10th. There's a hearing before the Supreme Court, and apparently Trump and the Republicans want to get Coney Barrett on the court to possibly strike down Obamacare, and that is the main message from the Democrats. I think I proved that pretty clearly in those last 2 clips, but the next 4 clips are actually all Republicans. The next 3 are on the Coney Barrett healthcare overturning of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act issue. The next 3 clips are Roy Blunt from Missouri, who tries to pretend that he doesn't even know. He doesn't know. Missouri is, I saw people were betting on the color of my shirt this week, and nobody bet purple. That was one of the things Obama said in his famous 2004 speech at the Democratic National Convention before he was a candidate. There aren't like red states and blue states. I guess we're all purple states, like my shirt, or they're all the United States. We're all supposed to come together. Is Joe Biden going to bring us together? Certainly not Donald Trump. He's proven that in the last 4 years. But Roy Blunt is from Missouri, which has some really blue parts. St. Louis, where I lived for several years when I finished law school, and worked as a public defender in the late 1990s, mid to late 1990s. And so I know a little bit about Missouri, and Kansas City and St. Louis, those are the blue parts, and then there's all these rural red parts. Well, there's a college town, and then there's, of course, Jeff City. I spent some time in Jefferson City. What I'm going off on one of those tangents I should avoid, but like I said, here you're going to see Roy Blunt pretend he doesn't know whether Amy Coney Barrett has any views on health care, and that's contrasted with Senator Mike Lee from Utah, where he don't give a fuck because he's a Republican from Utah. Who's going to beat him? Someone from the left? No. But first, here's Roy Blunt from the supposedly purple state of Missouri trying to pretend he don't know. He don't know in this clip.
A couple of issues that may be impacted due to the Supreme Court, and that is the issue of abortion rights and the issue of the Affordable Care Act. Is it your hope that if Justice Barrett becomes, if Judge Barrett becomes Justice Barrett, that it leads to the ruling of the Affordable Care Act as unconstitutional?
No, that's not my hope. My hope is that on any case she deals with, she looks at the facts of the case, applies it to the Constitution and the law, and then makes a decision. And I don't know how you can predict any of that in advance.
Do you want to see the Affordable Care Act ruled unconstitutional and totally thrown out?
Well, if it is thrown out, it'll be months from the time the court hears it. We'll have time to think about that argument and to do something about it. I think a lot of the Affordable Care Act is now baked into the system. The one provision in the Affordable Care Act that I authored, so we filed about 9 or 10 bills, was keeping people on insurance and their parents' insurance until they're 26. Sure don't see that being reversed. I don't see pre-existing conditions being protected, being reversed. No matter what the court decides, a lot of that discussion has already been had. The American people have accepted that as a basic part of the ongoing system, and we'll have that happen.
Well, but if they throw out the law, it doesn't matter. You guys have to pass a new one. Very quickly, you guys are rushing to confirm a Supreme.
So, like I said, there you saw Roy Blunt from Missouri pretend he doesn't know what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act. But in this next clip, you will see Senator Mike Lee talking to George Stephanopoulos, saying he thought the whole thing was unconstitutional to begin with, and he hopes that we all lose our protection. Well, Roy Blunt was pretending, oh, we'll have plenty of time to fix the Affordable Care, once the Affordable Care Act gets struck down. And you saw in the Joe Biden speech, he quoted from the brief, the Trump administration brief says, strike the whole thing down. He quoted it twice. Go back and watch clip number 7 if you want to, because Biden accurately quoted the Trump brief to the Supreme Court, strike the whole thing down. But Roy Blunt apparently says, oh, if it happens in the months next spring, we're going to fix the whole thing, even though in the 4 years of the Trump administration, it didn't happen. They could not repeal, they could not replace. Trump has not come up with something so much better and so much less expensive, or, so much better, so much cheaper. Isn't that what all he has is slogans, executive orders that he signed this week that mean nothing, don't do anything to help anyone with their health care. But you saw Roy Blunt try to avoid the topic. Mike Lee embraces the fall of Obamacare, the fall of the protections of pre-existing conditions, all of that in this George Stephanopoulos clip from ABC's This Week This Morning over here.
Senator Durbin right there, he says he and all Democrats are united now, concerned that if Judge Barrett is confirmed, the Affordable Care Act and its protections for people with pre-existing conditions will go down as well. Are they valid concern?
Look, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act was, I believe, unconstitutional when it was enacted. It was unconstitutional when it was litigated in 2012. It was unconstitutional when Chief Justice Roberts, writing for a narrow 5-member majority, rewrote the Affordable Care Act in 2 critical ways in order to render an otherwise inevitably unconstitutional law constitutional. And so the fact that Congress chose to enact an unconstitutional law shouldn't tarnish Judge Barrett in this. Her job is to figure out whether it's unconstitutional or not. I don't believe it is. John Roberts rewrote it twice in order to make it appear constitutional, which it is not.
You got a very forthright opinion there on the Affordable Care Act. A lot of your colleagues are concerned that that forthright opinion is going to cost you on November 3rd.
Okay, well, look, Judge Barrett, we're talking about Judge Barrett here, and we're talking about constitutionality. Judge Barrett would look at this not on the basis of what's politically expedient. She'd look at it on the basis of constitutionality. Now, I don't purport to speak for what Judge Barrett might say or might think. You asked me for my opinion on the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. I don't believe it is. I have no idea how she would rule in this particular case.
We also heard Senator Durbin talk about the process, whether
So, like I said, that's the contrast between Senator Mike Lee from a deep red state, Utah, and Roy Blunt from a somewhat purple state. I saw people liking my purple shirt. Tommy Bahama had a sale at the end of the summer where, like, I got 3 shirts for, like, half price. So I will be putting 2 purple and also a red shirt into the rotation in the next several weeks. We only have 38 days till the election, but I will at least keep doing this Sunday live stream through January 20th, 2021, as I've talked about. So I also was watching the live comments. I saw that Dale Jones figured out how to click that join button and become a monthly YouTube member. And then I also saw that I got Mike Reed became a monthly patron on Patreon, clicking on that link to become a monthly patron. Like, that's actually the best deal for me, is the monthly patrons on Patreon. Where they take the smallest cut and I get the most monthly sustenance or predictable income or whatever. But I also appreciate all the Super Chat contributions, the PayPal contributions at those links down in the video description. Now, before I get to this next clip, I have to criticize... I'm about to criticize Brit Hume for being lackadaisical in his cross-examination of Eugene Levy, son of... Eugene Levy. Eugene Scalia, not Eugene Levy from Second City and Schitt's Creek. But no, Eugene Scalia, Trump's Secretary of Labor and son of Antonin Scalia, who was on to talk about what a wonderful person Amy Coney Barrett was, and I did not take that part of the clip. But then Brit Hume does this like lackadaisical cross-examination about, well, you know what she said about the Affordable Care Act. Why don't you tell me what she said? Is she gonna, and well, he starts off saying, accurately, Democrats have picked overturning healthcare, stealing your healthcare, or the title of my video this week, Trump stealing your healthcare. That's their main talking point. They've decided to wreak the highest political vengeance from this Supreme Court nomination, since they are unlikely to be able to stop it before the election, or maybe slightly after the election, as I talked about earlier. But you might be wondering, what did Amy Coney Barrett actually say about the Affordable Care Act? Well, you didn't see it in any of the other previous news clips. Brit Hume, if he were a good journalist, or a journalist at all, probably would have taken a screenshot of what she said and shown it to Eugene Scalia, not Eugene Levy, Eugene Scalia, in the clip I'm about to show you, but no, nobody, none of the 5 big corporate outlets showed you what Amy Coney Barrett said in 2017 in a Notre Dame Law School law review article. It was actually a book review of a book by Randy Barnett. I think it was called Our Republican Constitution. But I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you. Here it is, screenshot. And I've even highlighted the part. Thus, Justice Scalia, criticizing the majority's construction of the Affordable Care Act in both NFIB versus Sebelius and King versus Burwell, protested that the statute known as Obamacare should be renamed SCOTUS Care in honor of the court's willingness to rewrite the statute in order to keep it afloat. For Justice Scalia and those who share his commitment to uphold text, the measure of a court is its fair-minded application of the rule of law, which means going where the law leads. By this measure, it is illegitimate for the court to distort either the Constitution or a statute to achieve what it deems a preferable result. So that's what Amy Coney Barrett said about the 2 previous times the Supreme Court upheld Obamacare. It definitely seemed, and if you watched the clips of her, she definitely said she is a acolyte of Scalia, so she definitely wants to uphold, she wants to apply the law to the facts. By the way, that's something I forgot to say about what Roy Blunt said to Chuck Todd on NBC News' Meet the Press. He actually said that she should apply the facts to the law, not the law to the facts. That I was looking through my clip list, and that was Roy Blunt's big mistake. I forgot to point out. If you go back to clip number 9, Roy Blunt says she should apply the facts to the law. No, apply the law to the facts. But actually the big secret, or what I'm going to tell you as someone who actually understands, I'm a lawyer, I understand constitutional law, and what Amy Coney Barrett said in that Notre Dame Law Review article there does not necessarily mean that she's going to strike down the Affordable Care Act. The case to strike down the Affordable Care Act that is up before the Supreme Court on November 10th is so much weaker than those other 2 cases that even if she thought those other 2 cases should have been decided to strike down the Affordable Care Act, that doesn't guarantee she will actually vote. And chances are, honestly, as a lawyer, as someone who understands how the Supreme Court works, if she actually gets appointed, the chances are that the Supreme Court and even Amy Coney Barrett herself will try to show her own legitimacy by voting to uphold the Affordable Care Act. So that's the little secret I'm telling you all now. Like, what is it, like an hour and 15 minutes into my video, now you know what I really think about my title, The Democratic Messaging, that Trump's going to steal your health care. Well, that might be true. They've been trying to repeal and replace Obamacare for years and years and years, and they don't have a replacement. They didn't really repeal it, and honestly, whether Amy Coney Barrett is on the court or not, I think there's a significant chance the Supreme Court, for the 3rd time, will not strike down Obamacare. But that's just my legal opinion as a lawyer who has studied constitutional law and followed the court for many years, and that opinion is worth what you paid for it, and a few of you paid for it, most of you didn't, so I guess that's what decides it. But anyway, that is my big introduction to the final clip in this topic where, like I said, Brit Hume does a lackadaisical job cross-examining Eugene Scalia, not Eugene Levy, Eugene Scalia, son of Antonin Scalia, never really quoting what I just showed you, just asking Eugene Scalia, well, you know what he said, but there's some cross-examination, and I will talk about that final news clip in the first topic before I get to the coronavirus crisis update in the final clip from CBS News' Face the Nation. But here's Brit Hume and Eugene Scalia over here.
Let's get to the question of her record then. It's now becoming clear, at least at the outset, that the issue on which she will be challenged by Democrats is health care, and particularly the Affordable Care Act, which is coming up for action by the Supreme Court at some point in the near future. The assertion is being made that she is likely to vote not to uphold the act and therefore put an end to it. What do you make of that claim?
It's a red herring, Brit. I think it reflects a bit of frustration on the part of the Democrats on how they might attack her nomination. She made a comment about the Affordable Care Act decision a number of years ago before she was a judge. It was a comment that a number of people made at the time. It's not a question that will be before the court in the case that's coming up. And there's absolutely zero reason to believe that Judge Barrett is somebody who does not have views about the importance of health care. As I said, she's a working mother to school-aged children. She is the mother to a child with disability. The suggestion that she's opposed to health care is absurd.
Well, let me drill down a little bit farther on that question about the comment she made. What did she say about the Affordable Care Act, and I guess it was about John Roberts' decision in the case to treat the Affordable Care Act's penalties as a tax? What did she say exactly that you think is not likely to lead to a decision one way or the other?
I believe that she made the observation that it appeared that the Chief Justice had bent over backwards to twist the language of that statute to save its constitutionality. That was a criticism that a number of people made at the time. By the way, it was something that other people praised the Chief Justice for. A number of people said the Justice did the right thing by, in their view, going out of his way to save the statute. So it was a very common view at the time. I think the most important thing to know about Judge Barrett's jurisprudence is that she will go where the law takes her. Her view of judging is that any personal view she may have on health care or any other matter you can name is not relevant to determining what Congress wrote and what's in our Constitution. Her authority derives from those documents. She understands that, and she will follow the lead of the Constitution and its original meaning and the text of what Congress wrote.
I understand that the issue that will come before the court is whether the Affordable Care Act, with its tax or penalty, now zeroed out. So there's actually no actual monetary penalty for not having insurance. With that out, then how can it stand as a tax, correct?
I believe that's the question, Brit. But again, we're talking about an extraordinarily qualified person with a great record of achievement. And there's no single case by which you should judge her qualification for the court. She will be addressing cases for years, probably decades.
Understood, but let me just push you just a little further on this, if you don't mind, sir. If she believes that the idea that it was a tax, as articulated by the Chief Justice, was kind of far-fetched, why would we not then believe that when the issue came before the court with the tax zeroed out, that she wouldn't then say that the constitutional basis for demanding or ordering people to have health care, mandating health care, health insurance, I should say, is unconstitutional?
Because by the very fact that the tax no longer is there, the question whether it's a tax or not is moot. It's gone. It's a totally different case, Brit. And again, the fact that this is being raised shows that the Democrats are casting about for anything by which they might seek to oppose an exceptional nominee. The other thing I expect we may hear about is her faith, which, as you know, was something she was attacked for last time. The Democrats embarrassed themselves when they did it, but they've done it with other nominees. We had a nominee of the president to a court a little more than a year ago who was attacked for being a member of the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic organization, has existed for more than a century. And Senator Hirono of Hawaii and Senator Kamala Harris both attacked this man for being a member of the Knights of Columbus, which is just a Catholic organization that accepts Catholic faith. So I think we'll see all manner of criticisms, but it can't change the fact that she really is a wonderful person and exceptional nominee.
Well, very quickly then, speaking of organizations, she is said to be a member of a group called People of Praise, which is a kind of ecumenical Christian.
And I think we're going to hear the words People of Praise several times next month in October during the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, because she belongs to this group that apparently it's like an ultra-Orthodox Catholic organization where supposedly women are supposed to be submissive to their husbands, and there are male and female leaders in the group where the male leaders were called heads and the female leaders were called handmaids or handmaidens, and there's some controversy as to whether they were this group or some group from New Jersey or some similar group. Might have been the group that caused Margaret Atwood to write the book The Handmaid's Tale, or was sort of like the basis for that I guess it's kind of a science fiction novel, but that is an issue that you will see be brought up in the hearings, probably, though I think the Democrats are going to not take the bait that Eugene Scalia kind of pulled a little bait and switch there, where he decided, I don't want to talk about what you said about the Affordable Care Act anymore. I'm going to pretend or I'm going to change the subject to anti-Catholic sentiment, even though the presidential nominee of the Democratic Party is Joe Biden, a Catholic, and the Speaker of the House of the the highest ranking woman in the Democratic Party, the second ranking Democrat, is the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, a Catholic. So I just showed you Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, two Catholics, expressing the views of the Democratic Party. You think Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi are anti-Catholic? I don't think that one's going to fly. Eugene Scalia, that is something I'd expect more from Eugene Levy. Well, whatever. I don't know, they kind of look a little the same. If Eugene Scalia's eyebrows were a little bushier and he was wearing glasses, he might look a little bit like Eugene Levy. You can let me know what you think down in the comment section. I did get another Super Chat contribution from Lulu Girl there at the end, asking about the next paragraph and the text from Amy Coney Barrett's 2017 Law Review article. Thinks Barrett's a man. No, that's Randy Barnett. I mentioned that kind of at the beginning. This Law Review article was a book review of a book by this guy named Randy Barnett. He wrote a book called Our Republican Constitution, I think. There's a link down in the video description to the entire Law Review article, but it's a Randy Barnett wrote a book, and so all of this is to say that Barnett, not Barrett, this is a Law Review article written by Amy Coney Barrett about a book by Randy Barnett. So I can understand why you were confused between Barrett and Barnett. I apologize for that confusion, but I hope I answered that question. And now the final news clip I want to show you before I get to the bonus Dash and Sandy or Dandy clip at the end. This is the clip I promised earlier where Margaret Brennan asks Mark Meadows about how we are about to be screwed. That one of the things that happened this week was the first day of fall, and that is a bad season for respiratory viruses, and it looks like there are several states where coronavirus cases are going up, and hospitalizations have leveled off, if not started increasing. And I was talking earlier about how maybe Trump thinks 38 days to the election, if I don't care if people get infected now, because it takes like 2 weeks for them to start showing symptoms maybe, and another 2 or 3 weeks after that till they have to go to the hospital, and then maybe another 2 or 3 weeks after that until they die. So that's like 4 to 6 weeks after infection before, 4 weeks till the hospitalizations go up and 6 weeks till the deaths go up. So 38 days to the election, Trump doesn't care. Those are all consequences to deal with after he loses or somehow won't leave or whatever's. I don't know. I can't tell you what's going to happen, who's going to win, who's going to concede, who won't concede, whether there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power. Stay tuned to the final season of The Trump Show. Hopefully this is the final season, but here is Margaret Brennan getting Trump's White House chief of staff to try to answer questions about how we're all screwed going into the fall, and he pretends it's all not happening, but it is in the final news clip tonight over here.
Sir, when I look at some of the data right now in terms of where the country is with the coronavirus, there are 4 U.S. states, including Wisconsin, that have had record one-day increases. We're going into cold weather. We're headed towards Election Day. Where's the infection rate going to be?
Well, it's hard to tell where the infection rate is going to be, but what I can tell you is the progress with vaccines has just been remarkable. We've had a number of conversations with not only the FDA and those that are involved in making sure that any vaccine is fully vetted and safe, but additionally, some of the clinical trials are in the very late stages of development. And so we're optimistic that what we'll be able to do is hopefully start taking sign up for those vaccines. And so even as we face this unknown virus that came to us from China, we're trying to make sure that we're prepared to do all we can to mitigate the difficult circumstances that a lot of Americans are facing.
But the predictions are not that you could have a vaccine by Election Day, and it is relevant in terms of the infection rate because people have to have confidence to be able to go out and go to the polls. If you look at data from AEI, hospitalizations are no longer declining. In fact, they may be increasing. It doesn't look like this is under control.
Well, the hospitalization rate is, if you'll look at that data, whether it's from AEI or anywhere else, the hospitalization rate actually has been a good news story over the last several months. To suggest that it is spiking up is not accurate.
I said increasing.
But I can tell you that, well, you know, 1 or 2 increases in certain states. Certainly, we're going to continue to fight this as those embers pop up in areas, but we're having ongoing discussions with our governors and mitigation risk. There will be an announcement on Monday as it looks at additional testing that the federal government will be providing to all the governors. And so as the president makes that announcement, I think that will be an encouragement so that everybody can go back to school or back to work and feel like they can do that in a safe manner.
So kudos there to Margaret Brennan for grilling the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, on what is probably the biggest story going into the fall. You know, I talked about how Democrats are hyping the Supreme Court nomination as a chance to steal their health care, and that is not quite certain. That might be an overhype. And then Trump is trying to distract by talking about how he might not engage in peaceful transfer of power, and I'm concerned about that as well. But what we all should be concerned about is what you heard about in that last clip, is we're going into the fall. There's a high level of daily coronavirus cases to begin with, 40, 50,000 cases a day, when testing has even been dropping a little bit, and now the hospitalizations have leveled off, maybe increasing, and that means by the time we get to the election, deaths are probably going to be going up, and fall is the season for respiratory illnesses. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I got my flu shot. Get your flu shot. That's something you can do. There's not a lot you can do to stop us from being totally screwed in the fall, given that we've had such poor, dishonest leadership from Trump on the coronavirus, going all the way back to when he got briefed on January 28th by Robert O'Brien, his national security advisor, saying this was going to be the biggest national security threat that he will face in his entire presidency. But he downplayed it. He admitted he downplayed it. Many extra Americans died, are going to continue to die. Over 200,000 Americans dead, and that's a pretty dark place to get to at the end of the program, so I guess that means I should finish up with my Dash and Sandy clip, a little bit lighter, kind of like Maya Wiley talking about the Breonna Taylor case with a kitten behind her. That was a little bit of a day brightener in a very dark situation. Well, this week my Dash and Sandy or Dandy clip is this morning you're actually going to hear AM Joy hosted by Tiffany Cross. I think she's in the front. She's the front runner to take over AM Joy. Might be calling it Crosstalk. I talked about that earlier, and you'll hear that in the background of this Dash and Sandy clip, where this is at the foot of my bed. I term this Dash jumping on the bed, and then Sandy wishing she could somehow get on the bed, but thank God she can, in the Dash and Sandy or Dandy clip to finish the show over here.
How I feel about that. And Newsweek had an interesting article that Biden's swing voter problem isn't SCOTUS, it's actually the first debate. And they talk about tracking social media and these 40,000 swing voters of every hue. I hear them saying of every hue. However, I have to ask, as a pollster, somebody with your fingers on.
And that's the show. Thanks for joining me. Like I said, hopefully maybe Wednesday morning I'll be doing a debate clip roundup after the Trump-Biden debate on September 29th. So that's like Wednesday, September 30th, hopefully, depending on what happens. Can't promise that, but that's kind of what I'm planning. Until then, or until next Sunday, I appreciate all of you who joined me on the live show, my recorded show viewers, all my financial supporters, and until next week, I guess I will be seeing all of you around the internet.